everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Conversations with MM. This is Marivir Montebon and hope you're doing well today. This is another exciting episode of our podcast. And I'm here in New York in my little corner under the sky in my bedroom. Hope everybody's doing well. It's October 31. It is the last day of October where we celebrate the Filipino American History Month. And with that, we celebrate our achievements, our successes, and we remember the struggles and the continuing struggles that we go through as we live here as Filipinos in the diaspora. So, just a note that the celebration of the FilAm History Month started in 1992. And shout out to the group Filipino American National History Society for pushing this celebration legislation so that we, as Filipinos, could celebrate our presence here in the US. So it's amazing what we have gone through and what we're still going through together as a community. So keep on keeping on and keep that unity, which is so much needed, right? So our guest for today is an emerging leader in our community and someone who was introduced to me by a good friend, Miss Tess Abotanmo de la Cruz. And Tess, thank you so much for connecting me to our guest today, who is no other than Enzo Lorenzo Manzano. So Enzo is the president of the FilAm Democratic Club of New York. He was just elected, and he is also the he's taking up masters. Let me read his bio, ladies and gentlemen, to be very precise. He is taking up pursuing his master's degree in public administration at the NYU Robert Wagner School of Public Service. And he is also currently the Deputy Director for Community Relations at the Carpenter Contractor Alliance of the Metropolitan New York District. This is the labor management and nonprofit arm of the New York City District Council of Carpenters. And there's a lot more. He was born and raised in Manila. He is a U.S. citizen, but he finished at the Dela Salle University, completing the Bachelor of Arts degree in political science. So, and without me knowing it immediately, Enzo is the son of the illustrious and iconic actor Edu Manzano and half brother of Luis Manzano. So I didn't know, but it's good because looking at his own curriculum vitae, it is worthy. He is worthy by himself, right? So let's take a listen to our interview, which we recorded yesterday. Enjoy. Enzo, thank you for joining me today in this conversation.
Thank you, Marvir. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it was amazing to see you yesterday at the Democratic, I mean, no, it was the Filipino
Value
American
Fiesta ni Steven.
Barrio Fiesta History Month celebration. That was
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Perfect
So
timing.
I know, right? Am I amazing, ladies and gentlemen? Because Enzo and I were emailing back and forth to arrange this conversation. And there he was, right in the place where we were at
Mhm.
the Pitcha Community Health Center in Jackson Heights. So, Enzo, tell us about your journey as a emerging leader here in New York. So, why did you choose to be a volunteer in the first place for the elections at the Bronx Council?
Of course. Even when I was back home in the Philippines, I mean, let me start this. I moved to the United States in 2018, and that was right after I completed a degree in political science in De La Salle
Mm,
University, Taft. And I
okay.
moved with the hopes of eventually getting into, government politics, getting involved in public service.
Oh,
But as somebody who moved here alone, Though my
Mhm.
sister does live in New York now, but pretty much I didn't really have any direction. I didn't really have anybody to guide me in how to kind of enter the field.
Mhm.
And so it took some time to figure out. I spent my first 2 to 3 years working in customer facing roles in the hospitality industry, pretty much just waiting for the right opportunity
Oh.
to really get my foot in the door. And so there was an opportunity that came up to volunteer for a Bronx City Council race. And then
Mhm.
I just felt like, and this was also during the pandemic. So I was unemployed for the first year of the pandemic, obviously because I was in the restaurant industry when it happened. And
Yeah.
this was just perfect timing, really, to finally, try it out, to get involved and see where it takes me.
So, who introduced you to the council? Who was
So
your point
actually,
person there? Yeah.
right, right. And I guess to go back even a little bit, in 2019, actually, I did a short stint. I had an internship in a city council office in 2019. It was only for about 3 to 4 months. And
Okay.
I didn't really include that, I guess, in the description of, I guess, my history because it might just make things a bit cloudy and kind of where things happened and where things took place. So in 2019, I had a short internship for 3 to 4 months in the city council. I was pretty much just putting my resume out there, trying to get involved, and I had the opportunity to intern.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, However, after the 3 to 4 month stint, I was not involved for another 2 full years.
I see.
Um, so there was still, a little bit of soul searching after that, just trying to figure out really what I wanted to do. So after that,
Mhm.
so somebody that my supervisor in that internship actually ended up working in that Bronx campaign. And she reached out to her former interns who she thought, I guess, had potential or who could contribute to the special election race. And again, so it was really the perfect opportunity for me. I thought it made a lot of sense. I finally want to get involved. I've been waiting a while, while I was here in the US. And so I guess that's how things fell into place.
That's good. So you had it figured out already, even before you're coming to the US. So
Right.
this is really politics is really something in your blood and or in your mind. Am I correct?
Exactly. It's but how I would describe it is generally right.
Hmm.
Like when I say public service, there are many ways to pursue that path, right? So
Yes.
I had a general idea of what I wanted to do, but I didn't exactly know where to place myself.
So in the first place, why did you choose New York of all places in the US? Are your family members here? Do you have roots here?
Right. Well, I just feel like as somebody again because I moved alone, I was lucky enough that when I first came to New York, my sister had an apartment.
Mm.
I was able to stay with her for 3 months, but again, she already
Oh,
had other roommates. They already had their own setting, and I didn't want to intrude. And I eventually had to find my own way. And I just felt like as somebody who's just leaving the Philippines, just finished school, doesn't really, just wants to kind of start things by himself. New York made the most sense. New York was just the place that would be most feasible for somebody who didn't have a car, for somebody who's starting out. And
correct.
again,
Uh-huh.
because of because of the hospitality industry over here, even if I wasn't in the path that I was hoping to be in just yet, I was able to sustain myself because of the different opportunities I got, working in restaurants.
Amazing. So, when you became president of the PhilAm Democratic Club, so what led you there?
Of course. So I guess one way I want to start is, I've been living here for the last, 5 years now in the United States. Home is
Mm.
home. Home still means a lot to me. My roots still means a lot to me, the way I was brought up, the culture. And so, and honestly, even me coming to the United States,
Mm-hmm.
um, I had the goal of, trying to learn something here and eventually hoping to contribute something back home as well. So I just always had that in my mind actively, even if again, I was working in the Bronx and it didn't directly impact the Filipino community over there, but I had the goal in mind again of eventually trying to bring my experiences and what I've learned to affect the community. So, in my time working in the city council and even in my role over now with CCA Metro, I I've been able to meet other leaders, other Filipino leaders, young Filipino American leaders who are also involved in government and public service in the nonprofit arena. And
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, when Stephen Raga, the now assemblyman and one of the
Yeah.
co-founders of the club, actually,
Mm-hmm.
um, before he became an assemblyman, he also ran for city council. And when he ran for city council, um, part of the district that he was running for, which included Woodside, District 26, included Sunnyside, the neighborhood that I live in.
Oh, you're
Um,
in Sunnyside.
yes, yes. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm living in Queens. I love the borough. But so when Stephen Raga was running, and I was excited to learn that he was, he could potentially represent me in the district. And then so I got involved. I participated, when he launched his campaign in February. It might have been 2022, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was happening. And um, unfortunately, he did not emerge victorious in that race. But even when he did run for assembly, I made sure to help out as well to make sure that we did have our first Filipino American elected in the state. And then so even during that, aside from my professional work, I was able to connect with a lot of other young Filipino American leaders in New York City. And so because the club was founded in 2016, but during the pandemic, obviously, things kind of slowed down. They weren't able to continue their activities as they previously did, and
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of the co-founders, including Marian Guerra, who is now our senior advisor,
Mm-hmm.
and Assemblyman Stephen Raga, they obviously had a plan of revitalizing it, really trying to bring it back up, and of course trying to get new blood as well, because they're with their current roles right now, they're pretty limited in their capacity of how much they can be involved with the club. And of course, I want to mention the founder and former president, Aries de la Cruz. Um,
Yeah.
and so,
Are you recruiting? What membership are you looking for? Are you recruiting young people or people from all ages?
right, and I'm glad this is the first question you asked in terms of what we're trying to do with the club, really, because
Mm-hmm.
even before you think about activism, before you think about rallies, before you think about certain changing policies, trying to influence policy, organizing is the most important thing.
Correct. Yes.
And really, me and all my other officers, that's really our first priority with the club, making sure that we organize the Filipino American community. And it
Mm-hmm.
we don't it could come in all ages, whether you're a first generation Filipino or you were born and raised over here, or you're currently in school. What we're really trying to do right now is tap into the Filipino community and the Filipino American electorate, of
Mm-hmm.
course, New York.
I see. So what programs do you have where like people get interested to be part of?
Of course. So I guess I just want to mention again. So generally, the priorities now is to identify those groups, to connect with them, and of course, we have to introduce what the
I
club
see.
is, what we do, and what our plans is. Again, it might seem like the boring stuff, right? It's not exactly activism, or it's not trying to be loud on social media just yet. But that's really the most granular and organizing part of for the club to eventually reach our goals. But in terms of certain programs, what we're doing is we're a
Mhm.
democratic club, and right now we have a general election on November 7th, and we're currently organizing a day of action to help. There are a
Oh,
handful of competitive city council races
I
around the
see.
city, and so we also do plan of having a day of action to help out some of those races on November 5th. And another thing we're planning is for a holiday party, and on December 1st. And what that really is that we're just trying to really bring everybody together. And again, we just want to show the community that the club is here.
I
We
see.
want everyone to know what the club is trying to do. And we want to invite a lot of our elected officials as well to show up and show their support for the community.
So the approach is actually like you are linking with different organizations for
Right,
now, reaching
right,
out. Just what I saw yesterday, we had a lot of Filipino groups, and so
of
there was
course.
a way to network with everyone.
Right,
Is
and like if you think about my experiences again with the city council and what I do right now with CCA Metro Community Relations,
Mhm.
organizing is really the center of everything I do. And when there's something that you want to achieve, it's you're stronger in numbers.
Correct. Yes. So you consider yourself a organizer really on the ground. Have you
Of
learned
course,
that because of
that's
the
where everything starts.
Yes, amazing, right? So now I would like to ask you, how is your work at the Carpenters Council? This is interesting.
Mhm.
Perhaps you could give us a background of it, although like maybe just like a skimming through of it.
Of course. So my role basically is I am with the Carpenters Union, but with the labor management nonprofit arm, which is called the Carpenter Contractor Alliance of Metropolitan New York, CCA Metro. And my role is I'm the deputy director for community relations.
Mm,
And again, it's a recurring theme to this interview and with what I say. The kind of work that I'm involved with is really about connecting with whether it's with local elected officials, with
mhm.
different community-based organizations. It's because I'm advocating my role is, of course, to advocate on behalf of the Carpenters Union, which has provided, lifelong careers to many New Yorkers and has brought many New Yorkers, up to the middle class. And that is really, the strength of what made New York City what it is today.
Right,
And so we do go to communities, we let people know about different jobs, that are available through, career-long jobs through union carpentry, and really just giving back to communities. So we help make a lot of events happen. We do a bunch of distributions, Thanksgiving distributions, turkeys. We do like to do toy giveaways as well
mm,
during the holidays for to give back to communities.
how cool. So this is really something that amazes me. So you are so grounded into the New York communities by your work, your advocacy. And how do you compare life here in New York as your life in Manila? How is it? Is it more exciting here, or was it more interesting in Manila?
I would say, well, with the work that I'm doing, I would say it's a lot more interesting because I'm always a fan of learning something new,
Uh-huh.
experiencing something different. And what I love about my job is that a lot of people who come to New York, who come to visit, even or come for the holidays, will think about going to Manhattan, going to Fifth Avenue,
Yeah,
seeing the Empire State Building, trying to walk the Brooklyn Bridge. But because of my job, which I'm very lucky to have, I'm able to go to so many parts of the city that nobody even thought existed.
it's not a
You know,
tourist spot.
exactly, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful communities who are lifelong New Yorkers who and they just really advocate for their neighbors, and whether it's somewhere in Southeast Queens or whether it's somewhere in the Bronx or it's in South Brooklyn, like it's a beautiful city and there's so much to see and there's enough to see for a lifetime. I would
Amazing.
say, and that's really the best part. When I drive around and I see these different neighborhoods, when I do certain events, I meet all these amazing people. So that's really the best part about being here and the kind of job I do.
So you feel very like enriched.
Oh, extremely.
Nice. So how about in Manila? How's life there?
You back. I guess when I was living there, you mean like how?
Yes, yes.
Well, I grew up. So I grew up in Manila, born and raised. I most of my life I grew up in Makati City. I went to, and again I was elementary, high school, and college was all over there in
Mhm.
Manila. But I was also an athlete, so that was just a really fun time in my life. I was a student athlete most of my
What
life.
sport did you do?
I'm sorry.
What sport?
So a few. So I started with baseball,
Oh,
and then I eventually was in the football team. But I ended up really pursuing basketball. And so when I was in the Sal Green Hills, I was in the NCAA juniors men's basketball team. And I always like to note we were the first team to reach the finals in 34 years.
amazing. So ladies and gentlemen, this is a surprise for you. Enzo is the son of iconic actor Edu
Hmm.
Manzano, and a half brother of Luis, Lucky Manzano.
Yes.
So that's like I didn't even know it. I was like, I just like Manzano, so maybe you are. I was just trying to guess if you are, and you are. So
Right.
tell me about your dad, and do you have good relations with him?
Of
And
course. No.
yeah.
Right. Exactly. I really do miss my family back home. My dad
Mhm.
and my brother. I'm so glad that
Mhm.
my dad makes it a point to visit here at least once a year.
So you
Um,
see him, huh?
of course,
Uh-huh.
he'd love to come here for a couple of weeks. Last year my sister got married, and so he was here, and my mom was here as well, and we were able to celebrate that union. Um, and so it's amazing. And again, all my life, growing up with my father, I learned many things from him. And going to school in LaSalle, LaSalle Green
Yes.
DLSUI, it's the alma mater of my dad as well. So that even solidified the bond.
Amazing. So that the reason why I was trying to compare your life here and there, because you're very comfortable, I would say, in
Uh,
Manila, and here you are so grounded. Well, we there are different. It's a different environment. There are perks here in New York. So, how is the fathering role of your dad helping you out?
Two ways. My dad is somebody. He worked for what for in order to get where he is now. He worked really hard for it, and so did my brother. They're very hardworking people. They're very
Yes,
dedicated to the
yes.
work they do, and they have a lot of pride.
Strong
In what
work ethic.
exactly, exactly. So like you mentioned, I will admit, I did have a comfortable life growing up, a lot more comfortable than others. But
Yeah.
that whole the work ethic was never lost, and it's something I was always able to observe from my family.
Amazing. So that's why you thrive here too. We
Right,
people
exactly.
see you as an emerging leader actually immediately. So what's your prospect for your life here in New York?
Well, it is hard to think long term because
Uh-huh.
so much could happen. I have a life here. I could also have a life in the Philippines. But what I really will say is that I love what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just very exciting for me when I meet new people I never thought I'd meet before, stories I thought I'd never hear about in the past, neighborhoods I thought I'd never see, I never thought existed.
Wow.
So it's really a learning opportunity to be able to do what I'm doing and what I've done so far in the city, and it doesn't, I don't mind at all doing that for a little while longer.
Great. So let me shift a little bit to politics, if you don't mind me asking. How do you contribute, for example, in the local politics, improvement of public life here in New York as you see it? Do you already have that idea, or do you have something you want to really push as a leader?
Right. Well, what I will say is something I really take in mind over here is the democratic process. Like,
Mm,
I feel that there's really something beautiful and something really productive about that. The way certain neighborhoods
mm-hmm,
participate in, whether it's advocating themselves to their local elected officials, whether it's forming certain civic associations, uh,
mm-hmm,
and to make sure that elected officials over here know what the priorities are, that local elected officials also know that people are holding them accountable for how they treat and what they provide for their communities. And at this part, being able to facilitate those
mm-hmm,
processes when I was working in the New York City Council, or something, or even being a part of that process, because again, a lot of these, or communities and community-based organizations do reach out to us because there are certain needs that the community needs, and they are advocating for their own neighbors to
mm-hmm.
provide certain resources during certain times of the year. So even just being a part of that process is something that I really see myself being a part of.
So, did you see the difference of the no bureaucracy and so much bureaucracy in the Philippines? Do you see that here?
So I would say it's right. So New York is a very specific city, right? And it's
Yes.
you can't generalize the way government works over here with really anywhere else in the United States. And
Right.
yes,
It's
there are
different. Mhm.
several checks and balances in the city, and really the government over here has to go through a process if anything wants to happen. And really, a lot of the times, and what a lot of communities here demand
Mhm.
is for community feedback. We want to make sure that there's enough time. There are certain platforms where the community is able to advocate for or against certain policies.
Right. I'm interested to show this picture. You are with Lloyda
Hmm.
Nicholas Lewis. She's part of the Democratic Party, and is she mentoring you somehow
Well,
or leadership?
first I want to say
Yeah.
it was really nice to connect with with Mrs. Lewis. She's been
Uh-huh.
an amazing advocate for all that she's been through. She's continued to advocate for and be there for the Filipino American community, whether it's
Mhm.
here or whether it's back home. So I'm just so happy we've been able to connect. We've been able to talk about certain priorities that the club has um, currently and long term as well. And again, she's a wealth of she has so much knowledge. She's been through a lot, and so I'm really going to make sure that a lot of the advice she gives from her from her experiences, I'm going to really take it to heart and use it to advance the priorities of the club.
Great. So she's personally, I see her as very inspiring, and just being cool about her being a leader, and looking at her as an example of cool leadership here in New York, right?
Exactly.
So,
Mhm.
uh so what do you hope to see in the next year as far as the club is concerned?
Well, first of all, so I mentioned a lot that my priorities really now is to organize.
Mhm.
But what I do want to eventually see is I do want our elected officials to know that we're here. You know what I mean? That it's sure sometimes you could come to certain events, you could speak at certain events, you could tweet something about the Filipino community, which we very much appreciate, and
Mhm.
that shows that they are really paying attention to us. But we really want to
Right.
make sure that the Filipino American community, there are certain priorities, there are certain things about our neighborhoods that we want to improve, certain and we do want support, whether it's for our businesses, whether for certain organizations. So we just want to make sure that we're a recognized force in the city and that we have a seat at the table.
Right. So yesterday, your colleague and my colleague also, Rochelle Perez Ocampo, because she's with the FilAm Press Club of New York, as well as with the Democratic Club, she mentioned that Filipinos have very less numbers in terms of being registered as voters. And so that's just registered. And if these registered people really go out and vote, so that's a huge problem, really. And I think it's a cultural problem. So how does your group intend to respond to this problem and to the
Right.
need of representation?
Right, and you mentioned, a lot of them aren't registered to vote, and at the same time, a lot of those even registered to vote don't have any affiliations, right?
Yes,
Because
they're not organized.
right, and it might be even something cultural. Where back, where over here the two-party system is something that in this country's history, at least, that's what it's had this whole time. So it's people here very used to choosing whether you're on the left, you're on the right. But for Filipinos to come here, they all come from different backgrounds, but they came here for one thing. They came here to find a better life, whether it's
Yes,
for themselves, whether it's for the future families they're going to have here, or their current families back home. So there are a lot of issues that are not left or right. They're not red and blue. They
maybe
just
they're
want.
just so busy. When you're here, you help your family out in the Philippines.
Mhm.
That's why you are not really into public life.
Right.
So how to entice them is a major challenge, as I
Right.
see it.
Exactly, and I don't plan again on taking shortcuts, and those who really
Yeah.
have to foster those personal connections to be able to tap into that part of the community. But really, I know they're busy. There's a lot of people they're supporting. They're busy with the jobs, but they do have to know that the jobs that they do have here, a lot of it does depend on representation, what your elected officials do, the current state of the city.
Mhm.
So it's really important to be a part of that that process.
Yes, correct. Do you imagine yourself being an elected official one day?
It's hard. It's hard to say it because I I enjoy what I'm doing now so much,
Mm.
and even with what I'm already doing, there's so much to learn. I already feel like I am impacting so many people. But I'm just somebody who I guess just never say never. But at this point, um, again, where I'm at, the kind of work I do, I could see myself doing it for a little while longer.
Great. So you're really like really rolling your sleeves and being active in the community. That's
Yep,
amazing.
exactly.
So how about personal life? Are you dating? Are you married?
I've had a partner now. Her name's Nicole. We've been together for 5 years,
Uh-huh.
and she's Filipina.
Oh, she
Um,
is.
yeah, she's
Here
Kapampa.
in New York, or a
She's over
freshly
here.
arrived
She's
immigrant?
over here in New York.
I see. Did you
Um,
send me a picture of that? Can I show it? Is
um,
is this her? One of her?
no, but just to mention it, on the left of the photo, that's Marianne, our senior advisor. On the right, that's Michelle Amor, our vice president. So this was at a
Oh, so
local
these are
fundraiser.
the club officers.
Yes, yes, exactly,
Oh, I
exactly. I
see.
wasn't able to send you any photos of Nicole, unfortunately, but after this, I'm happy to show you. But it's in none of what I sent over.
Okay, so maybe you're thinking of getting married as well eventually.
I'd
I'm
love to
not
do that.
pushing you.
No, again, I'd love to have a family. I'd love to raise, my own, my own kids. But like we discussed, I might do it here. I might do it back home. It's something that I'll kind of just let the future decide.
Right, right. Let's see how things unfold. That's
Right.
amazing. So I think this is something being cool about the young people now. I observe that you're not really so bound to tradition, like at age 30, I got to be married. The women 25 must be married. I don't see it so much or hear it so much from the young people. You're really more civic oriented
Right.
as I see
And
it.
I'll be honest. If at this point, personally, I
Yeah.
don't feel like I could support an entire family just yet, right? And
Right
once I
now,
do
yeah.
make that decision, I want to be able to do that.
You have to
Really,
be able to, like
exactly,
ready.
exactly. It's
Great.
the personal financial state is something that we have to accept, and it's part of the equation.
Amazing. So for a wrap up, any message to young people out there who's already thinking what are they going to do with their life? How should young people navigate after finishing college?
I
What
would
should they
just
do?
I would just say and this has been said by many people, but one is don't be afraid to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to do something and you don't know how to do it, just do it. You don't have to be an expert right away. There's always going to be a learning curve, no matter what you do. The first step is just to take that first step really and do it. And you'll never know where it's going to bring you. You'll never know where it's going to lead you. You're going to be surprised many times in your life. And again, you might end up even doing something you never thought you'd do. So it's really just make that first step, try something different, and if there's something you want to do and you don't know how to do it, just do it.
Oh, that's great. That's really encouraging. Thank you very much, Enzo.
Of
Enzo
course,
Manzano, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and all the best with the organization and for the good of the Filipinos here in New York.
of course.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Enzo. And so
thank
see you around. We'll
thanks,
be
Mark.
back, ladies and gentlemen, after this commercial.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed our interview, our conversation with Enzo Manzano a while ago. Thank you, Enzo, for that very vibrant and substantial conversation with you. I was very um, encouraged and hopeful. Young people emerging as leaders is something very inspiring. So keep on keeping on, and I hope you continue to be an inspiration to the other young people and the old ones too, to make the Filipino American community in New York and in the US vibrant, visible, and truly a positive force in development and in happiness in the world and in our specific communities, right? So thank you so much. This has been a wonderful episode as usual, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. So this is it for now, and towards the end of the day, people will be out on the streets celebrating Halloween. They will be wearing spooky stuff. I don't know if I will. Maybe I could. And so enjoy it. Keep on keeping on. Love yourself. Love the others. Take care of each other. So see you again in another episode of Conversations with MM. Okay? Bye for now.